Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. You have ever so wisely tuned in to America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. It is my distinct honor and privilege and pleasure to be here with you today. And I got some things I want to get into. I want to talk about Trump and his meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister yesterday. I've got some sound bites, if you will, from that meeting. Some good stuff. We've got that out there. There's a bunch of stuff in the stack of stuff. I'm also quite happy to talk a little bit, and I'm going to do this. I know Rush used to say, there's the stick with the issues crowd. You're going to have to bear with me a little bit because I witnessed last night, and many of you did as well, perhaps one of the greatest basketball games I've ever seen in my life. Indiana Pacers are now up 2-0 on the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern, the quarterfinals, Eastern Conference, or semifinals, I guess. I don't know, whatever they call it. Yeah, semifinals. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I think that there's always lessons that are baked into things like that. So we got that as well. We've got some news with the Houthis. So we got a bunch of stuff in the stack of stuff, my friends. Before we do that, I want to remind you, last call, lifetime membership to the Inner Circle, our membership community. Lifetime membership is closing rapidly. This is, you'll be able to join as a member at various times and in various ways moving forward. But if you want to be a member for life, if you want to be part of that initial group, a founding member, lifetime membership, one-time investment, $99, help us get this thing rocking and rolling, exclusive content, behind-the-scenes updates, live video calls, all that sort of stuff behind the scenes. Go to toddhuffshow.com/join, toddhuffshow.com/join. This is not for everybody, friends. It might not even be for you. I don't know, but I'm looking for the folks who want to take what we talk about on this show, what we need to do, and do something with it. We're at a critical juncture here in this nation, my friends. We got a lot of momentum. We've got to keep it going. We've got to continue to win these fights for conservative principles and values, for the Constitution. This is our contribution to that movement. toddhuffshow.com/join. Again, $99 lifetime membership. That's it. You're in there for life if you sign up that way while it is still an available option. All right, I want to talk off the top. I know that there are people that aren't going to like this out there. And some of you might be Cleveland Cavaliers fans. Listen, I've got respect for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I've got respect for Donovan Mitchell, one of the players, for probably the best player, I would say, on the team. One of the best players probably in the entire league. Just a freakish athlete, unbelievable basketball player. Scored nearly 50 points last night. Somehow the Pacers still win. It is a remarkable thing to witness. But see, I love sports, but I also think that there are lessons. There are lessons in sports that we could all learn. That's a past tense. I was an athlete as a younger guy. I played in high school football and basketball. In fact, my senior year, we were a small school. Went to Monrovia High School. I graduated with 99 kids in my class. And in Indiana, that was the last year where there was just one class of basketball, meaning all the teams were in one tournament together. So if you were at a school like Monrovia or Emnitz or White River Valley, some of these schools that have, may only have a few dozen boys on, that could even go out for the team per grade. You played everybody. You played, you were in the same tournament as the big schools, the Cathedrals, the Ben Davises, the Decatur Centrals, whatever. You were in with that group, and our school, I was the point guard on that team. Senior year, we won the sectional for the first time. It was like 54 years. And it was a great experience. We played in the regionals after winning sectional at Terre Haute North. Not Terre Haute North. We played against Terre Haute North at Indiana State University, which, of course, is the home where Larry Bird played basketball. That's the arena, I guess, that Bird built, a huge arena. Indiana has great basketball. There's huge arenas. In fact, if you ever look up the top 10 or 15 high school basketball gyms in the country by size, almost all of them, it's like 12 of the top 15. I could be wrong here or there, but something close to that. So 12 of the top 15, I believe, are in the state of Indiana. Some huge basketball gymnasiums. The movie Hoosiers captured it quite well. We had a tad bit of that. We didn't have the success. We lost in that regional round, the first round of regionals to Terre Haute North, who ended up going, to the final 8, I believe, in the state. It was a close game. But anyway, the point is, I was an athlete. Was being the operative word here. I played at Butler, played football there as well. But I think sports can teach us a lot. Sports can teach us a whole lot. There are some things that the classroom is great for you. There are certain things you're not going to learn unless you, I don't say go to the classroom, but I mean learn it academically, whatever that looks like. We homeschool here in our family. You might go to a public or private school. There might be online school, and there's all sorts of ways now. Many people are self-taught. Some of the smartest people I know don't have the credentials for a particular skill to show that they have, achieved certain levels of degrees and so forth, but they are experts and geniuses in their respective fields, what they've spent their time devoted to. So there's certainly things that you can only learn through some sort of an academic setting, even if it's a kind of a self-education program, or sitting under the tutelage of someone who's going to be a mentor of sorts, or going to the classroom. There were things I learned when I was in college at American University in particular. Again, I went to Butler, but I spent a semester at American University, AU, as they say. It was actually not, it was a part of AU. I didn't go to, it was a weird setup, but we were a bunch of kids from a bunch of schools that were in kind of a satellite program, I guess, right on campus, or right on the edge of campus, American University there. And so, but there were things I learned there that apply to what we do today. I had to learn how people on the left thought. I debated them. I shared my ideas, sometimes as the lone voice, and oftentimes as the lone voice. I've shared some stories about this in the classroom. There's certainly value to those sorts of formal settings, those settings where you can, engage in academic sort of stuff or just learn the skills, whatever that looks like for you. We are all different. We are all human. We are all unique individuals. But there's something that comes from playing sports as well, especially for those, I shouldn't say especially, but I would say definitely for those who are entrepreneurial. If you're an entrepreneur, some of the skills you learned if you were an athlete, maybe you wrestled, maybe you played football, maybe you played basketball, whatever you played, the lessons you learned from sports are critically important to carrying out the things that you need to do. When I was at Butler, one year I won the Tenacity Award. I was an intense football player. If it was between the whistles, my friends, if it was legal, in my opinion, we were in a bit of a street fight. I played cornerback, defensive back, and it was one-on-one, mano-a-mano out there. And if it was between the whistles, we were going to be at it. So Tenacity is something that I think you can learn from sports. Teamwork is something you can learn from sports. The ability to learn what it takes to win is something that you can learn in sports. The preparation, the training, the sacrifice. When things get hard, and boy, do they, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in sales, which I talk to salespeople, in fact, that's what I'm going to do now. I'm not going to lose my train of thought here, but if you're in sales, and some of this applies to you, that's why I tell you about Easton University. Matt Easton. If you're in sales, are you achieving what you want to do? Are you achieving the income? Are you hitting your targets? Are you developing your market? Are you satisfying the people that you're reporting to? Are you looking to advance? Are you looking to get better? If so, Easton University can help you. They have some of the best training I've ever seen. Matt Easton is a phenomenal sales trainer and coach, and he's here to help you walk through the challenges, give you a system and some tools to make you better at selling. And so that's what I'm here to offer you if you're in sales. If you're an entrepreneur and you need to learn sales skills, this is the sort of thing that can produce wonderful results for you. So if you're interested, go to toddhuffshow.com/Easton. If you sign up to be a student at Easton University for yourself or for your entire sales team, if you do it through that link, Matt's going to jump on a welcome call with you. Make sure you hit the ground running, figure out your particular challenges, where you are specifically, and give you a little bit of extra guidance and assistance to get rocking and rolling there. So toddhuffshow.com/Easton is where you can go for that, toddhuffshow.com/Easton. I wasn't even planning to say that. I just looked down and saw that I needed to tell you about that. And that is what I mean. If you're an entrepreneur, you know that some of these skills, my friends, some of these skills are intangible. They're the intangibles that you learn from athletics. And so it's with that perspective that I come to this. Now, some of you aren't athletes, and I understand that this may not apply to you, but it might give a little bit of insight as to why someone like me loves sports so much. I genuinely love competition. I love just trying to win, adjusting, strategizing. You know, each game, these are 7-game series, or they play until someone wins 4 games. You keep adjusting. Coaches do one thing, and then the other team has to adjust to that. This is interesting and fascinating, and there are lessons that are all around this if you look at sports. And one of the things, if you watch the Pacers, and I know, listen, they're our home team. We've gotten the opportunity to kind of, we've met the team. I think we've got a bunch of good guys on this team. They've been great to my daughter. I shared with you the story of my daughter back in January. We were at an event. It's on the Pacers Instagram page. She played knockout, which is a game where you're basically shooting from the free throw line. You're trying to make a shot before the person in front of you makes a shot. And if you make your shot first, they'll shoot a free throw, then you'll shoot a free throw or a jump shot from the free throw line. And if you put the ball in the basket before the person in front of you does, that person's out. It's called knockout. My daughter played this. We've got an 11-year-old. She's pretty decent at basketball. It ended up being her and Benedict Mathurin, one of the Pacers, in the final. I mean, she knocked out, I don't know, a half dozen teenage boys to young men. And she ended up with her and Benedict Mathurin. This is a video that's on the page. It's been on the TikTok and everything else, TikTok channel and whatever. But through that experience, we got to meet these guys, and they're good. They're good guys, and they're good role models. And one of those, I would say, at the top of that list is Tyrese Halliburton, who lately has been voted as the most overrated player in the NBA. So The Atlantic, which we talked about The Atlantic on here, this is who Trump just sat down with recently to talk about whatever they wanted to talk about. I've read so many articles, I can't remember that specific interview, but he referenced it. He said, I'm going to sit down with these folks, these anti-Trumpers. They've got some radicals over there at The Atlantic. But they do this poll. They poll NBA players. Now, not every NBA player votes, but it's an anonymous thing, and they ask them things like who's the best player, who's the best coach, who's the worst this, that, and the other. They ask who's the most overrated player. Tyrese Halliburton was voted as the number one most overrated player. And he's a young guy, but he's got a good head on his shoulders. You might have seen his dad just in the last series against the Milwaukee Bucks. His dad went out onto the court and taunted Giannis and Antetokounmpo. That wasn't very good. The Pacers basically said, you're not coming to any of the games the rest of this postseason, which is bad because John, his dad, Halliburton, we've met John. My daughter spoke with John as well, John Halliburton. He's an excitable guy. He's a good guy. Everybody in that stadium knows him practically. He's at all the games. Anyway, it's just, it's a good group of guys. Tyrese Halliburton is a really good role model and a really good player. Now, there's times that, he's not the strongest guy. He's not the most athletic. He's not a very good on-the-ball defender, but I'm telling you, he's a great person to get the ball distributed to the right players, and he is in the clutch moments. And I told my wife this, and I know I am about to say something here that may upset some of you Indiana Pacers fans, but I'm a fan of the Pacers going back. The pinnacle was the late 90s and maybe early 2000s up till that Malice in the Palace, which if you've not seen the documentary on that, The Malice in the Palace on, I think it's Netflix, I would highly encourage you to watch that. It is a very, very good documentary, but it was terrible for the Pacers. They got into a fight with the fans, basically, and half the players were banned for many, many games. One of the players, Artest, got kicked out for the entire season. The Pacers were on track to probably make the NBA Finals that year, possibly win their first title. I mean, they were that good. It all came crashing down. But there was a guy on the team back then named Reggie Miller, who's now an analyst. He does some color commentating, I think, for TNT. He's a legend here. The chants of Reggie, I can still hear resonating in my mind as I'm speaking here today about him. But Reggie Miller was one of the best clutch players I've ever seen. I mean, he hit shots that were remarkable. The game was never out of reach with Reggie Miller on the basketball court. And the more I've thought about it, there are comparisons. There are different types of players, but there are comparisons between Reggie Miller and Tyrese Halliburton that can be made. I'm not saying that Tyrese Halliburton has proven to be as clutch as Reggie Miller, but I'm going to say this. The shots that he's made have been as big and as decisive, as important as shots Reggie Miller took and made throughout his career. Now, Reggie took more and made more. He had a longer career. He was here for his entire career, however long that, forget how long he was here. I think he was drafted in 87. He left, I don't know, mid-2000s, so close to 18, 19 seasons, something like that. I don't think he played 20, but regardless, we've got a guy who's got the capability, the possibility of being as clutch as one of the greatest clutch players ever. And it's just interesting for me to watch all this unfold, the drama of this, the drama of sports. And I try to apply that. A, I'm interested in it, but B, I try to apply that to life. You know, here's a guy, Tyrese Halliburton, who got some of the worst news he could get. His peers thought he was the most overrated player in the NBA. Now, he had a couple of choices there. Number one, he could feel sorry for himself. He could whine about it. He could, go get a new tattoo or something to protest, whatever, right? He could pound on the podium when he's at the microphone and complain about it. He'd try to fight people. But instead, what did he do? He upped his game. The guy has been looking for opportunities. If you watch the game last night, it's incredible. Pacers are down 7 points in the final minute, and they win the game. This has happened twice. They were down 7 points in the final minute in the past 2 weeks. In the entire history of the NBA playoffs, well, dating back to, I just read this morning, dating back to the late 1990s, In the entire history of the playoffs, there's been something like 1,643 times that a team has been up 7 or more points in the final 1 minute of a game. 3 times, just 3, the team that was down came back to win. 2 of those times were by the Indiana Pacers in the last week. And it's because of Tyrese. It's team basketball, but it's because of clutch shots that come ultimately from Tyrese Halliburton. And I love this. I think there's lessons here. I think there's lessons that apply to how we view saving this country. We were up against it, my friends, in 2020. We were up against it in 2024. There was a clutch moment in the 2024 election, in the campaign, and Americans came through in the clutch. We're still in the clutch. We still have to see things happen. Our backs were against the wall. Leaders need to rise up. Clutch players need to step in. We need a new metaphorical clutch player to fill in for Trump the next time we have a presidential election. That's what needs to happen. But it's an amazing thing. He could have quit. He didn't. Tyrese Halliburton. He won 2 of the best innings on the biggest stage against some of the best players. He stepped up. It's a remarkable thing to watch this happen. And so I'm glad to be a part of it. I know we spent this whole first segment talking about this, but there are lessons to be learned from sports. If you're an athlete in sport, if you're a high school kid, if you're an elementary kid, if you're a college player, learn those lessons. There are some lessons that I think sports best teaches you. I do. Team sports teach you things in addition. If you're wrestling is great too. But there's a team, an element, some things you learn that apply on the basketball court, on a football team, on a volleyball team, whatever, where there's a team component that applies to the rest of life, leadership and all of that. You can certainly get the tenacity from single athlete sports where you're just performing or competing by yourself. But my, oh my, what an amazing thing to behold. The Pacers are up 2-0. People can't figure this out. I've watched almost every game this season myself, and I can't entirely figure out how the Pacers do what they do. But they've done a lot of this all year. They've got good guys. They work together. They move the ball. They play as a team. They've got, I think, 10 guys that can score 20 points on any given night. And so there are lessons to be learned here. There are parallels. There are parables, too, that we can apply. So I just wanted to speak highly of my Pacers and talk a little bit about that. I have to take a time out. The clock says it's time to take a break, my friends. Sit tight. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. No, I haven't suddenly become a sports talk person in the sports talk industry. We still talk in the political space, actually at the intersection of politics, culture, and faith on this program. But this is culture. Like it or not, sports are a big part of the American culture. I think there's a lot to learn from it. I think that there's a lot of things that that sport prepares us for. I do. I really do believe this. So I'm going to leave it at that. I would love to talk about it more, to be quite honest. But I know some of you, as Rush used to say, the stick with the issues crowd. Todd, we want to hear about what happened with Trump and what happened with Byron Donalds on with Meet the Press, Kristen Walker. We want to talk about these sorts of things. We don't want to talk about the Pacers anymore. Fine, have it your way, my friends. That being said, I want to play a couple of clips. I've got them here of Trump with the Prime Minister of Canada, new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. Trump is sitting down with him. He's done this before, right? Trump sits down, has a meeting with the Canadian leader, talking about, well, tariffs and trade and our relationship, Canada becoming the 51st state, all that sort of stuff on the agenda. Tariffs, of course, being front and center. And so I want to play this clip. Trump is outright asked by the media, because what happens is after the meeting, Trump and Carney sit down in front of the media together. This again is perfect Trump. This is how he operates. It is, it's transparent, but it's not just transparent. It is ask me anything and I'll answer. So certainly the transparency part of it, but also the part of it that says, look, this is not scripted. I am trying to solve a problem in real time. I've got the Canadian Prime Minister out here with me. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about these issues that matter between the United States and Canada. By the way, both of these leaders were falling over themselves in a good way to say, look, we're friends. This is not meant to be a contentious thing. Canada, the United States, we have a strong bond. That's not going to change. We're just working through some of these issues. Both Carney and Trump made that abundantly clear. This isn't about severing ties or anything extreme with the Canadians or their government. This is about balancing the relationship between the United States and Canada. Trump's position has been consistent on this. The United States has, not only in our relationship with Canada, but in our relationship with pretty much the rest of the world, carried the lion's share of the responsibility. Financial responsibility and burden, the protection of our military, that's given to pretty much all of our friends by extension of being our friend and ally. And Trump's position is, look, all that stuff's fine, well and good. We're not here to, sell access to our military, but at the same time, you all are benefiting, other countries, more from our relationship than our with our relationship with one another than we are. So don't come in here and insult us and disrespect us and basically put even more pressure upon the American economy, the American taxpayer, the American worker, the American small business, and negotiate deals that help your side more than it does our side. Trump says we've had stupid leaders negotiate stupid trade deals for a long time, and that's going to stop. That's going to stop. A lot of times leaders want whatever. They want the headline. They'll negotiate certain things. Sometimes they don't know any better. Sometimes they just want the applause and the accolades for the headline or what is associated with that headline. And Trump says this sort of stuff is going to stop. The United States of America has been hurt economically, primarily through, especially these past 4 years, but through these bad trade deals and just through the way that things work today. And Trump says no more. There is real hurt out there among American families. There are. We've talked about this. Inflation, while it is now under control, and while, as I mentioned earlier, there is one inflation measure that is at zero, the CPE, not the Consumer Price Index, it's still very low. Trueflation says it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.3 to 1.5%. Typically, economists think it should be at about 2%. So we're lower than that. We're right at that anyway. And it was up around, 10% with Biden? And that's assuming that we were given all of the real numbers and information, which who knows with the way that our government operated, especially under Biden. It was far from transparent. This sort of stuff right here would not have happened. Yes, there were examples of Biden sitting in front of the media in these chairs in a similar fashion, but the feeling and the dialogue and the back and forth and the openness and the ask me whatever you want mentality, that was not there. Remember, Biden had a list of journalists and who he was going to call on, pictures of these journalists at times, pre-approved questions. I'm telling you, I have no doubt about this, pre-approved questions by at least some of these by the journalists. If you wanted to get on that sheet, they wanted to know what you were going to ask, who you are, at least if you're a friendly journalist. Even if they didn't know the question, they at least wanted to know, here's our friendly journalist. These are the people you call on, Mr. Biden. None of that stuff happens with Trump. So he's sitting here with Prime Minister Mark Carney, and he's being asked questions about these tariffs. And I want to play this first soundbite of Trump being asked about the tariffs. And I just love Trump's. I have laughed about this several times, probably more than I should. But this is Trump being asked as he's sitting with Prime Minister Carney, being questioned by the media. These are his response. Some of the questions are a question and the response here. Got to turn that on. I just want you to listen to this exchange. And I don't know if I'll play the whole thing. And there's one part of this I definitely want to play. Here you go.
To you in the course of your meetings with him today that would get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No.
Why not?
Just the way it is.
Let me pause.
We are the largest client.
So you can't really hear the question. I should have set that up better. I forgot that the question couldn't be heard very clearly. But a journalist says, is there anything he, referring to Prime Minister Carney, could say to you that would make you lift these tariffs today, to just get these out of the questions? Is there anything he could do to stop this stuff? I'm going to play it again so you can hear this. You can hear.
That would get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No.
No.
Why not?
Just the way it is.
Just the way it is. No. Just matter of fact. Is there anything he could do to get you to lift these tariffs? No. Why not? Just the way it is. So understand, again, friends, there's a group of people that don't understand what's going on. I would say that almost everybody doesn't understand the entire picture because it's impossible to know everything, especially with the amount of information that Trump has that we don't have access to. But beyond that, you've got a group of people that don't understand in general what's going on. And then you have a group of people that's deliberately trying to deceive people about what's going on. And so what's going on here is precisely what I hinted at earlier. Trump is, again, this isn't just between the United States and Canada. This is between the United States and virtually the entire world. The position of Trump at large is, I'm America's president. America first means something to him in reality. America first isn't just a slogan. America first means I care about my country and I'm going to look out for her best interests, for the best interest of the people who own businesses there, who pay taxes there, who live there, people who are citizens, people who have had too much burden placed upon them. Yes, we have a prosperous economy. Yes, we are the envy of the world in that sense. Yes, this is a wonderful nation, but we have been put into bad positions we shouldn't have never been put in by previous leaders. And Trump says, not only am I going to stop from creating new scenarios where this happens, I'm going to undo the things that are already in place to the best of my ability. And so he's used tariffs to disrupt this, to get people's attention, to bring people to the table, to cause phone calls. Because as Trump says, and I've got clips of this too, as I look at the time here, Trump says, look, you want access to the greatest market to sell to in the world, you're going to have to work with us. It's not going to be the way that it was. We are looking for ways to make this fairer for the United States of America. This isn't just a free pass for you, Canadian Prime Minister, or anybody else, President, Prime Minister of any other country. This applies across the board. I care about this country. America is not going to be burdened by carrying the problems and the financial, just the financial burden here in this country, around the world, I should say. It ends with President Trump. That's what's going on. He's using this as negotiation to get better situations and deals. I've got to take a break, though. Quick time out, my friends. Back in a minute. Welcome back, my friends. I'm going to play the rest of this sound bite of Prime Minister Carney trying to explain, position Canada, defend Canada, make Canada's argument here before the press, before the world to see, right here for all the world to see. He's trying to make the case for Canada. I'm going to play this as well. This is Mark Carney talking to the press alongside Trump as they had their talks and negotiations yesterday.
We are the largest client of the United States in in the totality all the goods. So we are the largest client in the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes that made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American. That's not like anywhere else in the world. And to your question about is there one thing? No, this is a bigger discussion.
This is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation. But we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada, and we put tariffs on cars from Canada. And at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves.
Okay. So you couldn't see that because you're listening, and even if you're watching on video here, you can't, I don't currently stream that video, but that was from video yesterday at the White House. Trump is clearly in control of these meetings. This is Trump's element. Trump is going to steal the spotlight. Carney is trying to soften the blow. He's trying to make it, look like we're a little bit different. Canada's closer to the United States. We're your biggest trading partner. You need us, to. He didn't say it like that. You need us to. Half of the car that we send to you, half of it comes from United States. What you've produced here anyway. And Trump basically takes, steps in and says, look, we're not interested in Canadian cars. We're not interested in Canadian steel. We want to do this ourselves. Canada needs the United States more than the United States needs Canada. All these things sound nice and hunky-dory apple pie, but the bottom line here is that we have been, from Trump's perspective, how he's positioning this, what he believes, we've been not treated well in these trade negotiations and the way that our countries have engaged in commerce. We're still friends. This isn't like you're going to upset the apple cart or anything, but Trump's saying, look, this is not the way it's gonna be. Not the way it's going to be. At another point, I'm not going to do that yet because I've got that soundbite. I'll have to play it in the next hour. But anyway, the point here is that the left is uncomfortable with this. Democrats are uncomfortable. There's some moderates who are uncomfortable with this. These things play out in real time. This is not scripted. Both sides have things that they want to say. They've had their advisors speak with them. Make sure, I'm sure Carney was told, make sure that you point out 50% of the automobiles that we send back to the United States actually come from what's been produced by workers in the United States. Make sure you hit that point. But this is, again, to draw from the sports analogy in the first half of the program today. I think it was Mike Tyson who said everyone has a plan until he gets hit, right? Everybody has a plan, what they want to say until they step up to those cameras. The cameras are in your faces, and you don't know what you cannot prepare for Trump. Trump is a wild card. Trump is unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to say. You do know that he's not afraid to say it. You do know that he is negotiating. He's applying pressure. He's trying to control the narrative, make this about what is in his best interest for this to be about. Canada's trying to change the rhetoric and change the tune to make it sound like it's more of an equal partnership. That's why Trump throws in the military. Trump will throw in the military. Hey, we protect you. We'd protect you anyway because you're our friends, but man, that's not cheap. You guys don't have much of a military. You've had a better military. I give you credit for that. You're doing more than you were in the past. But man, we got to do all the hard, heavy lifting here. You realize how hard it is to operate the world's two largest air forces, to have this unstoppable force that's the U.S. Navy, to have this well-equipped United States Army, this fighting force Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. You know how hard it is to equip these folks and to pay for this and to be able to make sure that threats around the world are not willing or not anxious, not eager to cross the United States of America. You know how much work we've put into that? You know how big of a deal it is to be attached to the United States as your southern, as your neighbor to the south? Do you know what that really means for you? This is not a equal sort of relationship. That, I think, my friends, is obvious to anyone who looks at this. So that's what was happening. I got more sound bites to play from that meeting that I want to get to. After the meeting, Carney was asked about Trump's reference of Canada being the 51st state, which I'll get to that as well. Anyway, I'm out of time this hour. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day. Go Pacers, SDG.